we're going to talk about Demon Slayer, so I'll give you the synopsis. This was the anime of the year 2019, and for good reason. Although I think Jujutsu Kaisen was anime of the year 2020, so yeah. People do really like it. But Demon Slayer. Here is a synopsis from IMDb. A family is attacked by demons and only 2 members survive, Tanjiro and his sister Nezuko, who is turning into a demon slowly. Tanjiro sets out to become a demon slayer to avenge his family and cure his sister, which is a very simple way of explaining what's happening, because that's like episode 1, right, is, Nezuko getting turned and the fact that she's a little different from other demons in that she doesn't, like, usually it's like they turn and then they eat the person close to them. That's it, like, and it happens to be family because that's the person who's there. But she doesn't, because she loves Tanjiro, and his heart is so big and he is so soft and sweet that he prevails and does it. Tanjiro is one of those characters that Kat and I always have this conversation where we're like, I don't understand why this character could not be a female. Like, it could have been a girl. There's literally no reason why. There's nothing about him that means he has to be a boy. But,
yeah, you're right.
It's classic. Like, it could have been Frozen, like 2 sisters learning to love each other, and that's the power. We could have had that.
I think it's like a retroactive, how can I put this? It is helping retroactively patch up some of the toxicity that it might have embedded from other sort of shonen type anime, with the young boy, and he always has to be like, he has to get stronger, like guns, like it's either about that or like, we got to do something hardcore. It's like, well, you can have a sensitive side. So you can be that guy, but like you don't have to be like fully all about that. Like, be tender. I feel like Tanjiro is sort of like, I don't know, him being male. That's the only case I can even begin to make.
No,
for that.
Yeah, I definitely think so. And I'll reference this as well. But Yodoye Travis from previously Get in the Robot and now Beyond the Bot, in one of his previous episodes, because he loves Demon Slayer, did a video about how there's like a new protagonists in shonen that are caring and compassionate, and so it's like kind of changing the way that like we're being, we're seeing our heroes. So he references Tanjiro and Deku of being like these really sweet boys who it's not to hate on Goku, right? But like he was just there to punch, right? He just wanted to punch, and that was fun, and that's it. And he didn't need to care because it was just a fun time. Whereas like with Tanjiro and Deku, there is a lot of caring that's happening, and I think that is one of the reasons I really, really enjoy this story. And when I like pitched this topic, I was like, the reason I really enjoy it is that in horror anime specifically, I have seen a trend where we're kind of understanding monsters. We're given a glimpse into the other side by a protagonist who is straddling both worlds. So we like get someone in the first episode, something happens, and now they're a half, like they're a mixed person. And I'm like, hey, I understand that. I can identify. But they're mixed, and they're introduced to the very like human version of the monsters, right? Like they're seeing them like Tokyo Ghoul, like Kaneki immediately is, half ghoul to save his life. And then he learns like, oh, they just want to drink coffee, and that they're also fighting their own internal wars, and that they're all complex and have their own motivations. And like, not all of them are evil. Some of them are weird, like the gourmets. Right? But at the end of the day, it's like, they're just, there's no just one ghoul, right? Like they're all unique and different. And by like showing us that world through the eyes of Kaneki, who's like in between, we kind of get to see that humanity in them. And then like the other one that I was thinking of is Parasite the Maxim, which we've covered, I think, in our horror anime episode, where it's like Shinichi and, Migi, Left Eye Lopez there, Lefty, are combined because, antics and what have you. But Migi is doing that like classic, alien comes down to Earth and has to find the one human that's good so then we can convince other people not to destroy us kind of thing. But there's the other side of that is that Miki is convincing Shinichi that, like, my race is just trying to survive. Like, you are the food. Like, you're eating chicken.
I don't understand. Your logic's a bit difficult for me to follow. My kind are simply feeding to stay alive and nothing more. It's natural for life forms to feed on other life forms. You just find it unpleasant that it's your own kind that is being eaten.
Well, yeah, of course. Human life is a precious thing, isn't it?
I don't know. I can tell you that I value my own life.
Like, you're eating chicken, you don't care. So why should we care that we're eating people? Like, you're the food source. How dare you? And I really, like, enjoyed that. Like, I love that it was, well, one, as a vegetarian. Like, always, I'm just telling you, the evolutionary chain is bound to change. But it was really nice to kind of see that and to see Shinichi being like, oh, they're not all monsters. And even, like, in the resolution of that show, like, they kind of decide they're not monsters too, right? But with Demon Slayer, it's really different and unique from that because Tanjiro isn't half demon, right? He is not straddling both worlds. In fact, it's just his sister who is slowly becoming a demon, or is a demon, tiny little demon, who sleeps instead of eats people, which is sweet. But I think even having, like, Nezuko as, like, this soft point for him doesn't even matter. Like, I think even if Nezuko wasn't there, because Tanjiro is just so sweet and is such, like, a genuine soft boy, lovable guy, that he would have always, like, done that, right? Like, demons killed his entire family, right? Like, episode 1, like, they're too happy to survive an anime show. Like, as soon as they're all loving each other and it's cute, I was like, all these kids dead. There's no way. I can't trust this. This is scary. My heart hurts already. I just met them. But he, like, they totally murder his entire family, and he still finds a way to, like, give compassion to the demons that are literally out there killing. I would say every demon except for the pedophile one are in some degree, like, okay. Like, there's because you get to see that flashback of when they were human and that this was done upon them and that they're just reacting to the worlds that they were given. And so I think it's, like, it's really interesting to have him be such a compassionate protagonist. And it's a whole new way to look at that, because with Kaneki and Shinichi, they had to become the enemy to understand that people are doing what they need to survive. But Tanjiro just always knew that. Like, he's just like, you are all trying to figure it out. Yeah. And
they really set him up as, like, sorry. They really set him up, though, like, as a really caring and empathetic person. Like, even, like, the first episode when he's going into town, he is, like, offering assistance without even having to be asked. Like, he kind of just takes it upon himself to, like, help people. And I feel like that that hasn't been seen as much, where it's like they end up doing it because they have to. Like, it's a means of their survival now. We're, like, with, like, Tokyo Ghoul and Parasite. But yeah, I totally agree. Like, he was totally set up as just a nice boy. He just goes into town. He helps the kid who got accused of breaking the plate. He helps the guy with his roof. Like, there's all these instances where he's just genuinely empathic and, like, wanting to be, like, a good dude. And it's really cool. It's a
and with these
fun thing.
Yeah, with these sort of themes and character traits that we're starting to see now in these type of anime, it kind of goes back to what I was saying about the things that get embedded in your mind as you're processing it. You're enjoying the adventure, but at the same time, what you're also learning is that otherism is not okay. Right? Like, you just because the thing is different than you doesn't necessarily make it a foe, and I just absolutely love that. Like, yeah, you're right. Have to survive, like the parasite, the maximum, like your food, ghouls, your food, like, we are trying to drink coffee instead. But, like, there is a chain of nature taking place here, and we're just trying to exist. Sure, we can come to the table and do this a little bit more diplomatically, I guess. But whereas demons are, in Demon Slayer, I enjoy how you see that it's also somewhat deeper than even them at one point being human. It's like, oh, they were human, but it's been lost. That humanity is completely gone. It's morphed into what they have become now as a demon. Like the worst parts have morphed into this, but at the same time they've forgotten everything. It's like I don't know. I guess the equivalent is like if humans could live for centuries, right? Most of us can barely remember like what happened just a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
So,
last week.
So it's like they completely gone, right? Like they have absolutely no idea who they used to be. And it's almost like they get, even when they're dying, they only get just a little glimpse. I think I used to be like this, or I think I used to have someone like this in my life that I cared about, and I can't even remember their face, Yeah.
It's so sad because you're seeing that like this has been done to them, right? Like no one's becoming a demon, and like as the show like the manga goes on, even there are like stories in which they're like you really get to see the background, and they get like even more tragic and like totally break your heart. And I think it's like interesting that Tanjiro's doing this kind of like Dr. Kevorkian role of like he's not just killing for killing's sake. Like we're not getting the speech from like Eren in Attack on Titan where he's like, you murdered my mom, so now I'm going to murder your entire race without any understanding of what it is. Like, first of all, you think that no one else has cared enough? Like no one else has lost somebody, bud? Hold on. But the fact that he's like, I've lost my entire family, they're evil, but he's still like coming to bat for them. And it's such a unique way to have your protagonist who lives in such a dark, depressing world. Like his sister is literally a demon and has to like struggle, and he's never like, I have to annihilate all these people. He like even like shows mercy on some of the really terrifying and honestly like evil like of these demons that have like do some really terrifying things. Like we can enter spoiler town. So definitely make sure that you watch the first season of Demon Slayer, the film. The train is coming out soon, which I am really eager, but also really sad. Like I'm sad just thinking about it. It's such a sad story, but it's good. And definitely read the manga. It's completed, so you can read the whole thing and feel like it got to an end and it's not something that's going on forever. Looking at you, One Piece, or Hunter x Hunter. Like, what are you doing? 900
plus episodes later.
Yeah, like, what are you doing? Why? Who wants this? Give us an end, all right? Like, let us be done. Release us from this.
幸せが壊れる時にはいつも血の匂いがする。人間に戻してやるから。
お兄ちゃん、いってらっしゃい。
But we specifically wanted to talk about the spiders arc. So there's a family that are called like the spiders, and they're demons, and they all look similar, and they all have a role. Like they're they don't really have names. They're named after what role they are in the family. So like mother, older sister, older brother, and then the one who does have a name, I can't remember it.
Rui.
Dad. Rui, yes. And so they're all really terrifying. They are like, that arc is so scary. Like, we've seen demons, but it still was very shonen, like punch time, like, you know, it's kind of scary, but we're like, all right, he's gonna get through it. Then we get to like this spooky mountain, and like Mother Spider is literally controlling them using strings, like controlling them like they're puppets and forcing them, while still conscious, to attack their friends and to hurt themselves. Like,
yeah. that that arc is absolutely just like, I feel despair when watching it, because the themes are so graphic, you know, both on an emotional level as well as like you sort of sympathizing with the physical, if you can even imagine what it's like to have strings attached to your body and be forced to do things that you don't want to do, to kill your friends, right? You know, like,
Yeah.
there are even themes of domestic violence, you know, going on with that, like with the person when you're being forced to empathize with the character who's doing all these heinous things, this puppeteering, right? Like, you're like, oh, wow. And even she is afraid for her life. What is going on right now? Like,
how dare you?
Yeah, like, I just watched you move people around until their bones were broken, and they're like, one of them explains, like, very graphically, that all their bones are shattered and that they're starting to pierce their insides, piercing their organs, and that every time they move, they're hurt. And, you know, and then Tanjiro and Inosuke figure out a way to try to help them out, you know, keep them from moving, toss them over the tree, which I thought was also kind of terrible. It's like they just said they hurt every time they're moved.
It's still super painful.
Yeah.
A little less.
Right, but like, you know, you toss them up there, you stop them from moving, and then she gets upset and she snaps all their necks. Like, like, oh my god, like, this is like nothing but dread. Like, that's all I felt at that point. I was like, wow, what are we dealing with right now? Like, she's obviously doing this out of desperation. So what else do we have to look forward to? Because that was terrible. You know, Rui is just like, can you really handle this, mother? And I'm like, oh, what? Little kid is like, little like albino boy in the darkness, like, like, can you handle this, mother? And she's like sweating nearly to tears.
Please
like,
don't tell father. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
just
like,
don't
wow.
Get dad. Just don't get
yeah,
him.
just don't go get your dad. And I'm like, whoa. I don't know what's dynamically happening right now. This is like beyond dysfunctional. Like, your son is making you afraid. Like, by threatening with, like, oh god, I mean, at that point, Demon Slayer already had my heart, right? So I'm like, I'm along for this journey. But like, if I had been just like dropped in the middle of that, I don't know if I could have handled it.
Yeah, Demon Slayer is definitely like the hurt people show.
Yeah,
right? It's just like, these people experience trauma, and now this is like the only way they know how to be, and like they're doing these like awful things. Like this older sister has a spider ball, like spider web ball, and you like disintegrate so they can eat you later. Or older brother with the friggin' people turning into spiders looking like Toy Story.
Yeah, right. The head on spider legs, just like crawling around and whatnot.
Oh my God,
like,
that was the worst. I just remember when I saw that, I was like, if that happened to me, I would be like, anyone, obviously, you would be so upset. But I was like, how dare I have to slowly turn into a spider human? Like, it was absolutely terrifying. And that was just the most upsetting arc. Like, it was so satisfying, yet terrible. And I actually just recently started rewatching Inuyasha, so it's a very minor tangent, but there's actually a character in the first 3 episodes of Inuyasha that does the hair, uses hair from people, like decapitates people, steals their hair, turns them into puppets to fight and do things that they don't want to do. And I was like, oh my god, it's like spider people. And it was like way less horrific in Inuyasha. Like I was watching, I was like, that's not that bad. But like they really play it up in Demon Slayer to make it genuinely like an emotional horror experience that invoked way more sympathy from me than the Inuyasha one did. So I thought it was interesting, like the contrast.
Definitely not for the arachnophobe. I'd say like that's not the episode to see. And I will say, what got me through it, and I think got most of us through it, is Zenitsu. Like he was there as your compass. Like he was there as like, what would a normal person do in this situation? Like, first of all, not go up the mountain, right? And like, and then sit there and feel sorry for yourself because your friends have left you to go up the creepy mountain, right? And like, and then think about someone that went up that mountain that you really, you know, in an odd sort of way care about, like, because he's very amorous,
he's
right?
Anime boy.
Yeah, like he's like Nezuko, right? And he runs up there, and then like,
all right, Mineta,
and then like, yeah, right. And then he's having to deal with it. He gets bitten, right? Because that's what spiders do. He gets bitten, right? And like he freaks out.
And
he
it's
turns
not the
around.
fun kind, like Spider-Man. It's not the fun kind. You were not getting fun superpowers.
Yeah,
you were getting
no,
very upsetting ones.
It's like MRSA or something like is taking place, right? Like it's terrible. And like, you know, he turns around, he sees human head on spider body, and he zips. Like he's like, I'm not dealing with this.
He's like, absolutely not.
Like in the wind, you know. And I feel like that's what helped. Like seeing someone who was just like completely not about it, like just like no. And then sees a bigger spider body with a human head, and then runs in the opposite direction and says, "Don't talk to me." Like he's like, do not speak. I see the head. I don't need you to confirm that's a human head by speaking with a voice. Do not talk.
I want to empathize with you.
Yeah,
you are a monster. I don't want to be friends. I need to go.
Like I love it so much. And Alex Lee, I had to look this up because I was just like, whoever's doing the voice for the dub for Zenitsu, like I'm just like, this guy, I haven't heard rants like that since like Edward
So
Elric
good.
from Full Metal,
Yeah.
right? Like, and I would go as far as to say these are even like better. Like they're just like so next level. When you think they're about to stop, they just don't. Like,
Yeah.
they just keep going. Alex Lee does such a great job with that.
Yeah, I like these, like, the group of them, because I love Inosuke, even though he's just, like, masculinity running around. He's such a weird little boy. His, like, getup reminds me of Princess Mononoke, and so I'm always like, that's, like, where I go. And the fact that he's so pretty, I'm just like, like, why is the, like, most masculine, like, toxic man here the prettiest boy? Like, what is happening? Tanjiro's also pretty, but I really love that. I love his, like, animal, like, that he's doing his own thing and doesn't really care what others do, but finds, like, appreciation for other, like, strong boys.
Yeah.
Except for Zenitsu, he's just like, nah, get out of here. But I enjoy, like I said, Tanjiro, and like every single, like I love the head of the breathers. I always forget what they're called. Their like their titles.
I know what you're talking about. I don't know.
Like the Hashira?
Yes,
Hashira.
there it is.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, I love that because I love the rules for this. Like I love the breathing styles. I love that they come from like, they're all adapted from like an initial, just like one of the elements, and they've made it their own, like the fact that you have mist and love, right? Or like that, butterfly. I, love that she wears pants for one, and that she's like not strong enough to behead them, but she has her own way to do it. Like I really found like some of the female characters in there really empowering too, which is like, we don't always get that. They're like the doctor, like with her flowers, and like she's like super sciencey. Even just Nezuko and how friggin' cool she is. Like she is like stronger than Tanjiro sometimes, and I'm like, that's so dope. And I just really love those rules, because sometimes like anime rules get weird, and I don't understand how we got here, but I really do understand the world of Demon Slayer in a way that I didn't think I would. And I just love like seeing each one of those, because in the film we'll get to have time with the fire breather.
The Hashira situation was very upsetting to me. So I was like, I'll catch you guys in like season 2. I was very upset with how they came off toward Tanjiro. Like I was very upset. Like I was like vocalizing how upset I was. Like
Ali would have punched Nezuko, like, sir.
Yeah,
I was a tiny child girl in my bag. What are you doing?
Yeah, and then like also with the sword in the box, like didn't he stab like in? Yeah, I was just like, this is what? And like they're holding Tanjiro down, and I was, bro, this is like worse than bullying somehow. Like this is like something next level. I wasn't a fan. I was like, we'll start
like it's definitely
later.
A real representation of like humanity, though, because there are so many. I mean, that we wouldn't have oppressive and disgusting systems if people like how the Hashira reacted to Nezuko and like existed. Like they would not exist if people like that didn't exist. So it is super gross, but I guess I do think it's like a telling human reflection of how awful people can be.
And the one person that you mentioned, the one that she's not strong enough to cut heads off, but she has her complete own style. She tends to speak with a certain level of I can't even tell if it's sarcasm or if she's being real. But there's a moment where she says, "If only demon slayers and demons could just get along and be friends." And she says it with that like sort of smirk, like, "Are you being serious right now?" But the other Hashira is just like, that'll never happen so long as they continue to eat us, so I'm like, so I guess you're thinking logically about this. This is reactionary. If you see someone in need because a demon's trying to eat them, you'll take action. But when I saw the rest of the crew, I was like, no, you guys are actually being very much more proactive about this than you first let on. There's clearly not a threat here, but you're trying to make some drama, and I'm not about it.
I think
it's just like vengeance, weird vengeance.
Yeah, I think they represent like what the previous protagonist would have been, right? Is like that, like they're the Eren in Attack on Titan, right?
Yeah.
Like they're like, you have killed, like, because they have that whole moment where they're like, we have all lost someone. Like we have all experienced pain because of this other. And so they don't have the compassion that Tanjiro has. And so it is just like, no, we're like, you eat or be eaten kind of thing. And it sucks because it's like, that's how it's always been, and it takes something like Tanjiro and Nezuko to show them that that's not the only option. I will say that like when you're moving forward, you get to have those one-on-one experiences with some of them. With Butterfly, I don't know if it was in the show or the manga where they talk about her relationship with her sister.
In the show.
They did that in the show? Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. Like, I really enjoyed that it was like, that her sister was the one who was smiling, and her sister was the one who was like, I'm doing this for the good, and she was like, that's stupid. And to lose her, she was like, no, I have to take on that role. Yeah. And like, so I think it's a mix. I think she does at the same, like, want that, but also is like, that's not going to happen. She's like, wouldn't it be nice? But I'm a realist, okay? And it's not going to happen. One of my favorite arcs that I just had finished in the manga is with the flamboyant one. He has like the eye patch, and he's like got the like gemstones. Like he looks ridiculous. And he's like, it's not flamboyant enough. And I was like, I love him. I don't care that he's a polygamist. He has 3 wives. It's fine. But his whole arc, they have like with these like it's like geisha time, and the demons that they encounter have like such a sad history. Like you get to learn, it's like it's the most stressful arc I've experienced because it just doesn't end, and I thought everyone was gonna die. It was so stressful. But even with all of that pain, like they're showing us these demons like backstories, and I was like, dog, you cannot have me feeling bad for these guys. I'm so sad that they have to do this. Like, literally everyone but the, like, main, like, the father of demons, who looks like maybe Michael Jackson in Smooth Criminal, or according to Yodoye Chavez, looks like Jack White. And I was like, yes, that's so true. But yeah, besides him, and again, that pedophile demon who stole the young girls, like, all of them have some redeeming quality. And I think, like, when we get to see, except for the one that stabbed Nezuko, I think all the other Hashira are, like, you're gonna see their side too.
Yeah.
Because, like, they're not just killing for killing's sake. Like, they all have reasons. And, like, the train one, you're gonna see his reasons too.
Yeah. Anime is getting better and better at forcing you to have, and I had to look this word up in the dictionary of obscure sorrows, forcing you to have a sonder, which is the realization that everyone's life is just as nuanced and complex as your own. And, you know, it's very easy to not have one of those. And we're starting to get these stories now where you don't get a choice. Here you go. They might be terrible right now in the present, but we're going to give you that very complex and nuanced past, you know, and you're going to have to cope with it.
It's like, imagine if they took this much time to have us empathize with Vegeta, right? Like, I think we, like, in like, because it's like, he was our enemy, and then now he's not, right? Like, and I feel like the relationship with Bulma and his growth would have been even more impactful if we're not just seeing him being like, I was a prince, and we get the glimpse that he lost everything. We would also, like, have those moments where, like, he actually cared, and that he's vulnerable, and that this is like obviously that's a front to protect himself. Like, if we could have those moments where we're sitting with Vegeta in his pain, then we would feel so much more when he's, like, doing that, instead of being like, this guy's just yelling again.
Yeah.
Just doing his feelings
I have, as a Dragon Ball fan, I have to say they're kind of retconning in it in a way with that. Like, we're still not getting these, like, very intimate moments, but they're definitely starting to give more glimpses in Dragon Ball Super, like, things that you wouldn't have known before.
Maybe it is this, like, I found the title for the video from Yodoye, and it's called Anime Sad Boys. Not all shonen heroes are jerks. From his Get in the Robot days. And maybe it is with the existence of protagonists like Tanjiro or Deku, who are, like, forming relationships. Like, we have entire arcs in My Hero where they're, like, learning how to babysit, right? Like, and be kind. And remember that being a hero also means just being a good person and not punching the best. Like, it's not about punching the best. It's about being, like, a hero in your core. And I think, like, with that change, maybe that's why we're kind of seeing an influence in our, you know, long-standing anime to come around and be like, let's feel some things. Let's give a little more oomph and, you know,
less
reasoning.
punchy punch.
Yeah, let's more like, okay, I understand why you punch.
Yeah, right. Empathize with the fighting a little bit more. But there is no good for Dragon Ball. There is no good reason really, besides it's just in their nature. Like, they're just a warrior
just
race.
Your turn.
Yeah, you just have to accept it, right? But
it's like the contrast between like the beginning of Dragon Ball Z, where it's like, oh, we let half the population die a bunch of times, like, where, like, you have, like, someone like Deku or Tanjiro who's like, no, we have to save those people too. Like, it's less about just being the strongest, it's more about, like, oh god, the awful, like, we have to protect everyone from the awful, instead of, like, I am stronger than my dad, but I can't let him see that to destroy this man who's destroying all these islands. Like, it's very, I guess, like, the point is different. It's altruism. Even it's like a respect
Deku,
for altruism.
Yeah, like Deku with his, like, entrance exam, like, he sacrificed his points simply just to save someone. He was like, I understand that this means I'm out and that I worked all that for nothing, but I have to save this person. Like, are you kidding me? That's how it has to work. And so, like, to see, like, it's just saving them for saving them's sake. Like, even Tanjiro, like, having these moments with the fellow trainees of, like, his sensei, to then be confronted with the murderer of all of his trainee. Like, every person who was underneath him has died by the hands of this demon, and he can still hold that demon's hand and be like, I'm sorry that the world did this to you. Like, that is like, never, like, that doesn't happen when it comes to the punch shows. Like, we don't do that.
Yeah, that's very true. And if it happens, it's like feigned, you know. I feel like there are moments it's trickery, and some of the older anime, you think you're about to get an emotional part, and then it just turns out like just kidding. I only got emotional because I was like dying, and now I'm alive again. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I got emotional, so I'll get good. Like, I cry, so like the cry turns into muscle, and then I can punch better. You know, it's not because I actually care about what you're doing.
Learn nothing. It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Do we have any last thoughts about Demon Slayer besides like everyone should go watch it? Like, this is like top 5 anime like ever. Like, to the fact, like, I don't really read like manga, like, usually, because I'm just like, why read when can watch and is in color, and it speaks to me, and it's like the words are so small, and I gotta scroll the right to left. I'm like, I can't, my brain. But I did for this. Like, I am actively reading this.
I think it's really refreshing to finally have some like anime that like you can like really care about like everybody in it. Like, it's just like more. What is the word? Like, there's layers. Like, it's just showing like the depth of emotion that humanity is capable of, and that we don't have to like be cruel and sacrifice people for the sake of survival. Like, there is a world where like good exists. Because I think like it's a sort of a reflection of like how society has been developing from like just accepting atrocities for the sake of survival, where like now it's like, no, that doesn't have to happen. We can take care of people. We don't have to act like consumer capitalists. We can like help other human beings. And it's like cool to see that reflected in the media that's coming out, and like this kind of like emotional shift of compassion and empathy instead of just like murder because needs to happen. It doesn't need to happen. And it's cool to like see characters that you're rooting for that are arguing that, and kind of helps amplify how gross it was before, where it's like, no, you don't have to be the worst. You don't have to sacrifice all these humans for this.
The generations too, like, that's a very like Gen Z thing. Like, they're so over it. They're so over everyone messing up their world. Like, you've had your time, you messed it up, it's our turn. Millennials are like, we're just trying to live. And like Zennials or Gen Z, whatever you want to call them, are like, no, we gotta care about each other, and that's what you guys were missing out on this entire time.
We gotta do better.
Yeah.
And everything's reflecting it, right? And you know, I look forward to how this kind of media is going to ingrain itself into like their personality traits and their decision making, and like, just what kind of person are you going to grow into, right? Because most of us can look back on something that was like, oh no, that anime that's in my DNA at this point. Like, you know, I took like that makes up some of my core values, right? Like, who's going to be growing up and saying like, oh yeah, no, Demon Slayer, that's completely me. Like, that is you be caring for, you know, others, and you like, also it's okay to be afraid, but you can overcome that fear, right? Like, I feel like that's what Zenitsu is embodying, right? Like, you don't have to pretend in Tanjiro, right? Like, so we're getting to a point now where like I'm seeing some really great things in the new age anime. I don't know what you want to call it, but I look forward to it, you know. And even as like an older sibling, you know, like I have quite a distance between, you know, my brothers and me, and you know, one of them, he's like freshly 13, you know, at this point. It's like,
same. Like, I just had a brother who's 13. That's so funny.
Yeah, like I don't know about your sibling, but mine's like he's quite sensitive and in touch with his emotions and how he vocalizes it, you know. I don't think he's getting it directly from anime, but he's getting it from somewhere, right? Like, it's like how is that gonna like transform
Gen Z,
and
man.
metamorphosize over time, right?
They're the better people. Like I
hope they
every
make the
time I'm
world.
like, yo, the better people, dog. we're handing them a terrible world, and they're
Yeah, I was about to say the
working
world they
hard.
will inherit, hopefully, will not be too far gone.
Yeah, hopefully we
Yeah.
can do something, or we can at least, keep it going for a little longer. Give them a little more time, stall it so they can fix it. 'Cause
Yeah.
sorry, I don't know how well we could do. Yeah, I think we're in a new era of anime, and it's super exciting. But thank you, Jeff, for joining us for a second time. Make sure people check out quiettwin.com. Anywhere else that we can find you or connect with you?
I wasn't ready. Hold on, give me just a moment here. So we already mentioned quiettwin.com. Also, there is this group that I am a part of, this collective known as Philly AV, and you can find us on Instagram at Philly AV, I believe. And the website is phillyav.club, but I can be found at quiet.twin on Instagram. So
Yeah, see those cool installations and stuff. Those videos, I definitely get it. Well, with that being said, make sure you definitely check out Jeff's work. And again, if you have not watched Demon Slayer, please do. Also read the manga, watch the film when it comes out. We'll probably talk about it a little bit when it does, because I'm like so excited. It's going to be great. But with that being said, don't get married.
Don't get married. They'll eat your kids.
Yeah, still doing it. Still saying that.
I don't know.
Maybe you'll die, and now your kid is a nice hero.
maybe.
Yeah.
I'd die anime mom style for my kid to be a good kid and save the world.
I'm now married. I was like, when I was listening to your last episode, I was like,
You
I
did
guess
it.
the next,
You did the forbidden thing.
Yeah, I was like, I guess the other option is don't have kids.
I guess you do.
I was like, I don't know what else to do.